It just so happened that a person perceives the nature around him as something permanent, unchanging. The slightest change that he can feel over the course of a few decades causes him many fears. Meanwhile, such views are connected mainly with the brevity of human life, which does not allow us to understand all the variability of the surrounding world, and in particular the climate. Modern humanity is very concerned about the melting of ice caps at the poles, while not thinking that for most of the history of our planet, no ice existed at the North and South poles. Speaking about global warming, few people remember that we live in an interglacial period and a new glaciation can begin at any moment. At the same time, the warmest period of our Holocene epoch, the Atlantic period, ended 7,000 years ago. However, what was the climate like not many millennia ago, but already in a time closer to us, in the Middle Ages? Few people think about the impact of climate change on global historical processes. Meanwhile, researchers consider the cooling that reached Europe in the period from the 4th to the 7th century to be one of the reasons for the Great Migration of peoples. In the 10th–13th centuries, a warm optimum was established in Europe. During this warm period, the Scandinavians are developing Greenland, the green country. There is a rapid growth in the construction of new cities in the north. Written sources convey information about the cultivation of grapes even in Scotland, where it does not have time to ripen today, as well as the cultivation of cereals in Norway, in latitudes close to the Arctic Circle. According to the first temperature charts compiled by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, average temperatures in Europe in the 10th and 13th centuries were higher than today. However, later, perhaps under the pressure of the hysteria associated with global warming, experts revised the charts, lowering the temperatures, which caused a wave of criticism. The presence of superior current temperature optimums did not fit well into the theory developed by Michael Mann, which relies on the human, anthropogenic factor as the main one in the process of current warming. One way or another, but by the 14th century the fairy tale ends, and Europe enters the era of the Little Ice Age. It is difficult to say what was the reason for this, a change in the movement of ocean currents, solar or volcanic activity, but until the 20th century the climate becomes much more severe. Starting from the 14th century, in the already mentioned Scotland, not only viticulture disappears, but also fruit orchards freeze out. Greenland is covered in ice. Scandinavian settlements disappeared. Chronicles begin to report phenomena unthinkable for our time. The freezing of the Bosporus, the formation of ice along the coastline of the Adriatic Sea, the complete freezing of the Baltic. Between the end of the 14th century and the end of the 18th century, there were over 110 famine years in Europe. In fact, every fourth year, frost or drought prevented a normal harvest. Describing the winters of the mid-17th century, French and German authors often wrote about how birds were frozen in the air, and this was probably not a metaphor. By the way, the 18th century did not bring tangible warming, and in 1784 frosts with temperatures down to -10 remained until the end of April even in Paris. It is worth noting that such an element of clothing as a frock coat or coat made of wool, which was worn by representatives of the nobility even in the summer, was not so much a tribute to fashion as a reflection of climatic realities. The Little Ice Age ends only at the turn of the 19th and 20th centuries. However, since more or less constant meteorological observations originate in the 19th century, climate standards also follow from there, against which the banal normalization of the climate in the 20th and early 21st centuries looks like a frightening global warming.